Buenas tardes, amigos, amigas, from Ixtlahuacán de los Membrillos. I'm here with a gentleman named Chris. He lives in central Ixtlahuacán, and I met him about an hour ago. We've been talking, we're having coffee, a juice, and he brought me over to this nice Mexican restaurant, small traditional Mexican restaurant. More about him, I was going to mention he's a retired teacher. He's been living in Ixtlahuacán Central for about 2 Snowbird seasons. He has lived somewhere else in the lakeside area. We're going to talk about that too. He's got a disability and he's physically challenged and he uses walking poles, and he's going to talk about his life here in Mexico. So go ahead, Chris.
Well, as you've said, I've been coming down here for a couple of seasons. I enjoyed the lakeside atmosphere of Ajijic and Riberas del Pilar, but I also noticed one of my goals of coming down to Mexico was to learn more about the culture and to learn another language. And it's wonderful down there, lakeside, but I know that I'm not interacting as much with the people of Mexico whenever I'm down there with so many other foreigners that speak English. And so I decided to move to a smaller town, Ixtlahuacán de los Membrillos here, close to Guadalajara, so it's easy to get to. And it's also got that wonderful small town vibe, but it's a beautiful town to live in. I've had a chance to see several small towns in the area, and I think how great it would be to live in some of those small towns. Well, whenever I'm being driven back into Ixtlahuacán, I always think, but this little town is so beautiful. It's really beautiful. And you start getting to know the people here. I'm able to pick up more of the language. I am by no stretch of the imagination fluent, but basically it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Now, I want to mention, how did I meet Chris? I was walking around the plaza and I was across the street and Chris was communicating in Spanish with a Mexican resident. And I noticed him there and I waited for him to finish his conversation, and let's tell him what I did. I walked up to Chris here and I started speaking in Spanish, and I was speaking in Spanish for a couple of minutes, and you thought I was Mexican.
I did. You fooled me.
Yeah, I don't go ahead and do that, but I was talking with him in Spanish. He's all Spanish, and he didn't know I was from the U.S. And eventually, I just told him, "Yeah, I'm from the U.S. just like you." And but he was communicating. You were speaking some Spanish, so you're saying that by living here, you've been learning it better than
Yes,
say if
yes,
you were to
yes.
live in Ajijic or Riberas del Pilar, because you did live in Ajijic for how long before?
I had been, this was the winter right after COVID started shutting down, and everybody was traveling more. So it was that winter I came and stayed for 3.5 months in Ajijic, and not knowing where I should be, and the traveling situation in the city. I unfortunately was in a beautiful area, La Floresta, there in Ajijic. But again, I didn't have a car, and so anytime I needed to get anywhere, I had to call a taxi. And I would go out and shop about once or twice a week. And it was a beautiful place to be for the winter, but it was not a great place for me. So I ended up the next year living at a place called the Penthouse in Riberas del Pilar. That was a wonderful experience. I got to know several people there. But again, that was kind of a contained situation where it was all foreigners living there. And again, I didn't get to practice the Spanish very much. And I met a few people from Mexico, but I just decided I was going to try to come live here in Ixtlahuacán, and I was able to.
And yeah, so it's you're kind of more forced. Not I don't want to use the word forced, but you have to live here. You're saying you needed to pick up on more Spanish.
There are people that live here that choose not to pick up on more Spanish.
Are you talking about living in the town of
In
Ixtlahuacán?
Ixtlahuacán.
Yeah,
And
I've met a couple of them at least.
I do know a few, and they seem like they get along fine. But again, it's something that I want to do. For one thing, it's good to keep your brain going. Learning a new language is difficult. It's good exercise for your mind.
Yes, and you mentioned you've been doing Duolingo for some time too, and that's helped you out a lot too, right?
It gives me a good vocabulary, but at the same time, anytime I'm conversing with somebody that is fluent in Spanish, my mind, I'm having to translate in my mind, and so I'm going slow. I think that I talk rather slowly to begin with. So,
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Now, I want to mention to the viewers, I am not fluent in Spanish, but I'm always learning. And, people, all they need to do is just try to learn. Put a little effort,
Yes.
Yeah, so people who live here in this town or that aren't Spanish speakers. Now, we have talked, we spent some time. There is only, beside you, I believe, in the town here, on this side of the highway, on this side, in this area here, there's only one other expat, I think.
No, there's actually several. I know another Canadian couple that lives here.
But do they live in the town, or do they
Yes.
live on the other side of the express?
They do live in town.
Okay.
And then I met a few others when basically one of the professors at Guadalajara that works with several of the foreigners here in the community, she invited a bunch of us over. So I met a few other people that I know do live in town.
Oh, okay.
But for some reason, a lot of the expats don't always show up in the middle of town.
Yeah, right.
Central.
You don't see them
Yeah,
very much.
yeah.
And I know that there's probably, I think, more that live across, and I was told that more of them live across the highway, but on the other side of the highway in Ixtlahuacán, but they live in Aguas Escondidos, which is a fractamento.
Yes.
So more of them live there.
Yeah, there's a good mix of foreigners and people from Mexico that live in Agua Escondida.
Yeah, across the, and there's that bridge they could walk, or I see a lot of them drive here too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fractamento, and there's homes there, yeah. Now, you love coming to this traditional Mexican restaurant, you were telling me.
Oh yeah. I've known Betty, La Dueña, the owner, for a while. Berta Alicia is her name.
She is a nice lady. She's nice. We were just speaking, she's got a lot of fresh food.
Yes.
Fresh.
So I actually eat at Betty's restaurant just about every evening.
Okay, we got to plug this restaurant, Betty's restaurant here.
Yeah.
And what's the calle here? Calle aquí, señora Betty? Calle aquí?
Independencia 14.
Okay, Independencia 14. Now that is the address, 14, 14.
La dirección.
Okay, 14 Independencia. Yeah, it's really nice. It's only about a block from Central. So, you told me, of course, you're a science, you were a science teacher, retired science teacher.
Yes.
And you were telling me you have also a strong interest in astronomy, and you always have had. You have a friend here. I think it's in Pontsetlan.
Yes, yes.
You want to talk more about your friend? And then I want to tell the viewers, this gentleman, other than probably Dan and Sylvia and my friends, and myself, you're probably the only one I've ever met that went to Hawaii. So you want to tell us about travels around here and the towns?
Oh, well, again, I'm still involved in science outreach. In the small college town where I live, there's an astronomy department at the university. I help out with them at the state park back in Missouri in the United States, and I've been doing that down here. During like the first quarter moon, I would take my telescope out on the plaza and set it up for the children and the people to come see the moon. And for a lot of them, it's the first time they've had a chance to use a telescope, to look through a telescope. And there's nothing in the world like seeing the moon with your own eyes through a telescope. You see pictures, but it's just not the same. And just like everybody that I've ever dealt with here or in the United States, they want to get their phones out and take pictures. And it's kind of exciting. So anyway, with a friend of mine from Pontsetlan, we try to go to some of the surrounding towns. We've been to the other end of Lake Chapala, a place called Hamai.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think it has the longest Malecon on the north side of Lake Chapala. Yeah, but you were there.
Yeah.
The town is beautiful too.
Yes. Oh, yes. So I was there at night, so I didn't get to see a lot of it, but enough of it that I could see that it was beautiful.
No, we were talking beforehand, and your friend that you see in Pontsetlan, he's a doctor.
He's a dentist.
Oh, he's a dentist.
He's a dentist.
You guys share the same interest in.
Yes. Now, I'm more of a visual astronomer. This gentleman is actually like an award-winning astrophotographer. So, and we have some similar telescopes. So we've developed a good friendship, and we keep in touch with each other.
Okay, we're looking over here, and Betty and. Okay, so you guys have that interest. So you met somebody, and he's a Mexican born.
Yes, he's from Mexico.
Okay, now we did share. There is one other expat that I think we talked about. You know, I saw him. What a coincidence! I'm not going to get into saying his name, but he lives somewhere in the town here.
Yes.
And him and I just saw him right by the church earlier. Him and I lived in the same Airbnb in Ahi before for a couple weeks at the same time.
Yeah.
But nice man. And you spent some time with him.
Yes. I see him every so often. You know, in El Centro, you generally run into most of the people that are living here. Not all of them, but most of them.
So, and like me, I don't see a lot of expats walking around. I saw a couple today. They live across the highway in Aguas Escondido. It seems like they just come here for a short time. They shop and they get things and they go back home. I think you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So probably, now another thing is cost of living here. You lived in Ajijic and Membrillos del Pilar. But we're also going to talk about handicapped accessibility. We'll talk about that. But cost of living, how do you find this compared to Ajijic and San Antonio or Membrillos del Pilar?
Yeah, it is. The cost of living is much better here. The meals are not that much. Again, I live in a hotel room, and so I eat out all the time, and so I very much enjoy the cost of living here.
You live in a nice place. They fixed it up.
Yes.
But okay, now the cost of living, because I heard when I first came to this area that the further you go away, either way, east or west from Ajijic, is when you save money. And I gotta believe a lot of people, I shop here, and the cost of living here seems to be quite a bit better than Ajijic.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention to the viewers, this is a long interview, but stick with it because this might be the place you might want to come. And you're physically challenged.
Yes, and that was one of the things that I was looking at with Ixtlahuacán de los Membrillos. The streets downtown, they have ramps going up onto the sidewalks, and some of the streets, or some of the sidewalks through the streets, get rather narrow, but everybody here in Ixtlahuacán knows who I am, and most of the time they give me plenty of room. Everybody here is really kind, and it's an enjoyable place to live.
It's not as fast paced like Ajijic or some of the other towns.
Tranquilo.
It's más tranquilo. Yeah, right. So, but the other towns are great. You know, we both said that. But for you, this is a good fit.
Yes, and again, I've had a chance to visit a lot of the small outlying towns, and every place that I look at, I always think, well, this would be a nice place to live. But whenever I'm coming back in, it's kind of like, no, I want to stay here.
Now, one other question. Do you ride the motor taxis at all? Because I rode them. They're great, aren't they?
I do. I get a big kick. Some of the streets, that is one of the other things that I enjoy about this town, is most of the streets are nice and level, not the cobblestones like they have in some of the towns on the north side of the lake, and which makes it much easier for me. But there is some streets whenever you get over to the town of Los Aguilias that have cobblestones, but then they have two areas for the wheels. But the
bricks, bricks,
that are nice and flat. But the moto taxis are three-wheeled, so you're gonna get some bumping in there.
Yeah, but I did ride with a motor taxi, even on full cobblestones. I've been up in the hills and around Central before. Whenever I come here, I usually get it. But do you ride them around town, like on the flat parts, where the streets are smooth? Like, say, a lot of Mexican residents use them. They're very inexpensive.
Yeah.
Do you ride those too?
Yeah. And one of the first things that I did whenever I came here was I actually, a couple of different times, I hired some moto taxi drivers to actually just show me around town. I explained to them, this is what I will pay you if you'll take me, just to show me more of your town. And that was one of the most wonderful things to do. This one gentleman, Rigoberto, was so proud of. He showed me his house, and he had a cow with a calf there, and I took a picture of him and put it in Facebook of him, holding his calf. And I got to see so much more of the town that I would have had no idea was there. There's a place up on the hill where they've got a well that the conquistadors put in.
Maybe, you know what?
And
maybe we can get into a motor taxi and show me, because I don't know if I've been there yet. It's up the hills.
It's somewhere up in the hills, and it's been a year since I've been there. And it was kind of like there's a bunch of gentlemen that were sitting outside there, and they took this plastic bucket and lowered it down in the well and brought it up and gave me a drink of this water from up there, and it was delicious. And then they had some sort of something that they made with peanuts and chili and some liquids in there. I think some lime and stuff. And I was just kind of a little bit leery about it, but it was delicious. It was delicious.
Okay, try new stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this is a 20-minute interview. It's been a long interview, but it's been, I've had fun doing this.
Okay.
I had fun. I want to tell the viewers that I had a good time. Chris and I spent an hour together. He's an interesting man, retired science teacher, and he's down here living comfortably, and despite your physical handicap, which do you want to talk about that?
Oh,
Real quick?
I'm not sure how much you want to know. It affects my long nerves. So basically, the nerves to my hands and feet die, and then it causes atrophy in the muscles. So I don't have very good balance. So I also
you want to show us your hiking pose?
yeah, and then I also have braces on my lower legs
Okay, that was
to keep my feet from flopping down.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't have very good balance. I just use these for balance.
Now you're saying, so this is definitely a good town for you for many reasons, but
Yeah.
one is,
My physical disability.
yeah. So I want to say, Chris and I are gonna, there's some fruit in front of us. Betty gave us some fruit. Muchas gracias, señora.
Malone.
Melona. See, okay, so melon, and we're gonna sit down and chat some more, and I might even have something to eat. I ate earlier today, but I want to say thank you so much, Chris, and muchas gracias, Betty. And the name of the restaurant again is
Betty's Restaurant.
Betty's Restaurant on Independencia 14, número 14. So,
Sí, serán muy bienvenidos.
sí,
Cuando
okay,
gusten, aquí
okay.
Estamos a la orden.
See, okay, come down and maybe we'll do an interview someday or a couple of weeks, who knows, when I got time. But it's a long interview. I want to say thank you, muchas gracias, for her hospitality, and thank you, Chris. I told Chris we'll hang out together. I got a car. Maybe we'll take him back to Ajijic, show him around there a little bit more. You see the changes lately over there?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get around on the bus too.
A little bit. I did more of that last year, but I generally have people that I can bum rides from.
Okay.
I just met one more.
Oh yeah, he's got one more. So with that, thanks for reviewing. You retired in Mexico. This is your Snowbird.
Yeah. I'm
wants
Snowbird
to-
right now.
Snowbird right now, but
Yeah.
he's gonna be maybe coming to stay full time. Well, I'll say thank you very much for doing this again. And
Well, thanks for having me.
hey, thanks for having me, man. It's company for the last hour and a half. Very interesting man. Okay, adios to the viewers. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Okay, adios.